everyone, welcome once again to Flash Discussions. I'm Captain Logan. Joining me this week is Dan Torrey.
Greetings.
And Steve Baxi.
Hey everybody.
This week we're talking about what is essentially the second part of a two-parter. This is Fallout and serves as the finish for a Firestorm origin, which I guess I should have called that we were going to go all the way to the complete origin for Firestorm, but I actually didn't call it. Was pleasantly surprised by it. I can't wait to find out what you guys thought about it. 2.5 Doctor in the comments just wrote Grodd with big giant. Yeah, that's exciting too. Lots of fun stuff to talk about with this episode. Can't wait to get into it, and let's go ahead and do that right this very moment. Let's hear from Dan Torrey first. Dan?
I thought this one was pretty good. I liked the conceit and the premise of how Firestorm is going to work moving forward, and it's interesting that they're sending him away to a city with the Doctor, sort of writing him out of the show. It seems like it seems perfect for them to do a spin-off with Firestorm at this point, because he's in his own city and he's with the Doctor guy. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets greenlit or happens or whatever. I was surprised he didn't stick around. But I liked seeing Clancy Brown come back. He was cool. I was glad that the show acknowledged how stupid Barry was for taking his mask off in front of Clancy Brown at the end of that episode. There's a flashback to it, and Clancy Brown's like, hey, look how stupid Barry is. And I was like, oh, I'm glad someone agrees with me. So I was sort of glad that the show acknowledged how stupid it was, but it still doesn't change the fact that the show was being stupid.
Especially,
really. Real
quick, can I also interject this, Dan? Especially because he kind of does it again in this episode!
Yeah, exactly. So all of that was kind of hilarious. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of, meaty, like, theme stuff in here that I really latched onto. I think all of the identity stuff was done much better last episode, and we're just kind of dealing with the fallout of it at this point, hence the name of the episode. But,
well done.
I thought all the action stuff was cool. I'm sort of glad that there wasn't a whole lot of love triangle stuff that was set up in the last episode, but I know that's going to rear its ugly head coming soon because, oh man, I just hate everything about Iris West's character at this point.
I do too.
She's kind of a terrible person once again. She teeters on from being okay to a terrible person for episode to episode now. So she was okay in here because she didn't really get to do much. And what else? Oh, I would regret if I didn't mention the fact that my prediction from episode 1 of this show has been confirmed. Harrison Wells is the Reverse Flash. We know for sure. We've seen him in the costumes running around doing stuff.
Yeah, he
I called it. And we saw Gorilla Grodd at the end, and he can speak. And he has mind telepathy powers, like in the comics, and that's really awesome.
I know. I didn't
to see that.
I didn't expect that. They're just doing him straight up. We've been talking about like the Gorilla City thing and saying there's no. I think they'll go all the way. I think they'll do it all. They're gonna go all the way. They've done Firestorm straight up. They're gonna go all the way.
I really hope so. That'll be so cool. Hopefully, there's not like monkey love triangles and beautiful monkeys. But that would be cool if we get to see that. Overall,
monkey love triangle.
I was pleased with the episode. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary for the show that like ate at me. Barry's doing his usual kind of stupid stuff, but at least the show came out and admitted it.
Yeah, man. Remember when you started the show and you thought that he was a genius or something? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve, how did you feel about this one? Give me a best moment and a worst moment.
I've got kind of the same disposition as Dan as far as this episode goes. The more interesting stuff was last week, but this is a decent enough cap off to that Firestorm idea. And there's even like rumblings now that the producer of the show used this two-parter as a backdoor pilot for Firestorm.
Cool.
But I don't know how true that is. I'm not sure if anyone's confirmed it. I think it'd be really cool to do that, though. I don't have a lot to say. I've only got like 4 main points that are really quick. One is we did the episode Crazy for You, and that's all about Caitlin trying to get over Ronnie, even though he's still around, and even though she still has emotions for him. Like she's trying to lose her baggage. And then immediately we do the Firestorm, the two-parter, and her character by the end of this of being able to let Ronnie go is not contingent on that episode at all.
Yeah.
So it felt really unnecessary to do that. If they were going to do something similar, they should have waited up for at least 3 or 4 episodes. It just makes Crazy for You seem really pointless and just filler at this point.
That's great. That's
other thing is, Firestorm's not Human Torch. If we're going to do Firestorm, we're going to do a science show. We got the Atom, we've got Wells, we've got Reverse Flash. Why don't we do Firestorm's actual powers of being able to transmute matter and molecules and stuff and not just make things burn? I feel like that's really lazy, considering that the show every now and then tries to at least try to be pseudo-scientific. The other thing is, of course, Grodd. Grodd is awesome. Not God, Grodd. That line is just amazing. I love the delivery of that. I don't know who's voicing Grodd, but it's a fantastic voice. And finally, and this is my worst moment. The best one, by the way, was Firestorm coming together. I thought that scene looked fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good.
I love the way they shot it too, with like the weird echoes of Stein's voice, and you get like the full superhero wide-out eyes, and I just thought it looked fantastic. But worst moment was at the very end when Barry says he's going to decide to go back in time. Really, you're not even going to stop and think about the ethics of what you're about to do. You're not going to think about how absolutely selfish and completely illogical that is. Really? You're just like, nope, I am smarter now, and I totally have the edge. That's not how time travel works, and you should be berating yourself for even thinking that that's a good idea.
Yeah, let me speak to that real quick, Steve, as I get into my thoughts. That bothered me too. I had the same thing, and so many time travel things do this, where we don't think about the ethics, we don't think about the potential fallout. Yeah, I said it too. We don't think about how there are ripple effects. We're not talking about just stepping on a bug either. We're talking about major stuff here. You don't know how that's gonna, because you are the Flash. You are important. You don't know how that's going. You probably don't become the Flash if that happens. And so, like you're not thinking about the ethics of it. You're not thinking about the babies that might not be born. You know, all kinds of things. But you're also not thinking about and you're a scientist, so you have no excuse. You're also not thinking about the potential for a paradox that you have to become the Flash in order to go back and do that. So if you stop your mother from being killed and you don't become the Flash, how do you know that it'll even take and that it won't destroy the space-time continuum? Yeah, how do you know that?
Yeah, I mean, really quick, what does it say about Barry's relationship with Joe? Essentially, he's just throwing Joe under the bus and saying, nope, I want my real mom, and forget everything you did for me up to that point.
And he's saying it to Joe, and Joe's not questioning it. And I know it's a big idea to get your mind around, and not everybody's a big science fiction person like I am, but if I were Joe, I feel like even if you haven't seen Terminator, Back to the Future, etc., and most people have, you would be going, well, wait. Now, if you go back in time and you change this thing, I'm not going to be me anymore, right? And I mean, I know it's just right at the very end of the episode, but it's obvious where he's going. Joe should be like, wait a minute. Yeah, that bugged me. I hope they handle it. I hope they deal with it.
Yeah, agreed. I just don't like time travel stories with the Flash because, I mean, you could do stuff that's potentially really interesting, and they do that in the older comics. But ever since like Jeff Johns and Flashpoint, you're just making Barry a selfish character when he thinks he's good enough that he's allowed to time travel and no one else is.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about the consequences of it.
Aren't you also making some really big assumptions about what actually happened in the past?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. He has no facts whatsoever.
He has no, well, he knows that he was there. That's what he knows. He knows that a future him was there. That's and I'm fine with them jumping to that because I don't think that's a big conclusion. I mean, I don't think they're jumping to conclusions. That's the only, with what they know, that's kind of the only plausible answer. That's fine, but you don't know why you went back. I mean, you're just assuming I went back to make sure my mother didn't get killed, and that's probably what happened, but you don't know what the circumstances were surrounding it. I also kind of think that Joe, knowing what he knows now about the whole time travel thing, should not be so quick to dismiss Harrison Wells' Reverse Flash.
Yeah,
because he knows that that Barry, that an older version of Barry was back in time. So because he's been suspicious of Wells for episodes and episodes, and in this episode he goes, "Oh no, Barry, I agree with you now." Really, you have information now that should tell you that it's possible that it was Harrison Wells. It's future Harrison Wells. Why wouldn't you think of that?
Yeah, no, agreed. It's just really strange, and hopefully they handle it better the next couple episodes. But just that split-second decision and the way no one even like had a second glance at what the ramifications of this would be.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Well, I'll give a couple thoughts real quick. First of all, I'm going to echo your best moment, Steve. The Steven or Stein and Ronnie becoming Firestorm was awesome. I was really excited that they went that far and they can already control it and everything. I thought that was really good. I didn't think about the whole transmuting matter thing. You're right. It is possible that that's a thing that comes later. That like as they develop, they discover that what they actually are doing is transmuting matter with the fire thing, and they think that's all they can do. But then there's all this other stuff they can do too.
They did mention as well that the device that Clancy Brown takes him out with does that to his matter. It like screws up the matter that he's playing with when he's making the flames, and that's why he gets knocked out.
Yeah, it blocks his matrix, I think he says.
Good
so
point.
like his powers have something to do with matter. At least I think they're implying there, but they didn't explicitly say it, I don't think.
These two episodes together, and I feel like what we have here is kind of the third act of a big story, so it's not a complete story on its own. What this episode did for me was what the first episode did with The Flash. It made me feel like I was a Firestorm fan. I had that with the first episode of The Flash, where I said I've never cared that much about The Flash, but this made me feel like I was watching an adaptation of my favorite character. This did the same thing with Firestorm. I was so excited about it and could not believe that I was. Turns out that Firestorm is more fun on screen than he has been in any comics I've read him in. Professor Stein is an inspired casting choice. This guy is great. He is as right for that part as the guy playing Harrison Wells is for Harrison Wells. I'm in love with his performance. I thought the pizza thing was actually kind of funny. I think he's got a really good range of emotion and expression, and that he's not just a stick in the mud like I thought he might be. I really like that. I still like the identity stuff, but Dan's right. It was more interesting last episode. This was kind of just a cap-off thing. And it actually made the identity stuff a little bit less interesting because because I wanted them to kind of explore like what these two men were after that experience, and what it was more plotty than that. It was more just, okay, we're still connected, so there's these things that are still kind of seeping in. I got the sense that it's probably simple enough that if you completely took them apart, they wouldn't retain anything of each other anymore, and that's not as interesting. So but whatever. Ultimately, that was really their whole thing was so much fun. My worst moment was that scene where Barry just super speeds off in front of Stein's wife. And what was really weird about it, this is what I wrote down. I guess Stein already told his wife about Barry being the Flash, and that's why that's supposed to be okay. And Barry somehow knew that he had done that, so he didn't mind going fast in front of her. That's all I can figure out. There's a scene we missed there.
Didn't they work with his wife last episode, and he was speeding them around places?
He worked with them, but I don't think they did the super speed thing. The only person I think he super sped with was Caitlin to get to the Firestorm imploding thing.
If she already,
I just assumed that she had seen him speed around and do stuff last episode.
If she already knows he's the Flash, then that's fine, no problem. But I didn't think she knew that, and that kind of took me out a little bit. Yeah, I thought I don't know, that was kind of weird. I also am still having a hard time getting my mind around this whole thing about how nobody is worried about Wells and his ethics, and the cops aren't after him after what he told everybody last episode, and that the only person investigating it that's even remotely bothered by it is one guy in a newspaper investigating it almost as if it's some kind of conspiracy, but everyone knows. That is really bothering me.
Yeah, he should be in jail after confessing that he knew that the particle accelerator should have exploded, and we haven't answered that at all yet.
Yeah, and people aren't suspicious, and what's also really kind of strange about it is that we've got all this stuff with this general about, like government having too much power, but then there's no oversight for a scientific research place.
Isn't it really weird, too, how, like, Iris, they play Iris talking to her coworker that didn't treat her very well in the past few episodes? Like, he's talking to her, and he's like, I don't think Harrison Wells, took all the proper safety precautions, and maybe he wanted the particle accelerator to explode. and he kind of already confessed to doing that in public. Why is that played like it's a revelation by this guy? He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, and they're like, oh, look, this guy, he's smart. It's like, no, I mean, Wells already kind of said there, he knew that there were, like, apparent risks on live TV.
They're treating it like it's Watergate, and it's really silly. It's a conspiracy. No, we know what happened. All you're really questioning is what his motivation was, and that's a subjective thing. You can't find facts that say he intentionally, like. The only thing what he did was he had facts, he took a risk anyway, put him in jail.
Yeah, it's really strange. The one thing I have to say about the Firestorm thing that I forgot to mention, and you sort of reminded me when you were talking about the backdoor pilot thing, Steve. The Firestorm show has the potential to be really awesome, especially in contrast to the other CW shows, because one of the main characters will be a not beautiful person. He's an old man.
That's a great point!
He's already tied up in a romance, so you can't do love triangle stuff with Firestorm.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic, yeah!
That's
so
great!
It's just going to be a superhero show. It'll be great.
Well,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and also you may not have that. Now I don't know a lot about Firestorm, but you may not have that comic book problem of there's like a girl that he's like destined to be with because that's who he's with in the comics, and so we have to like build to it. Like maybe doing a show based on a character no one cares about is the best idea.
Yeah. And Firestorm's barely got a history except for like one major run, so you could do pretty much anything.
Yeah. Can I suggest that what they should do with it, too, maybe is... I mean, maybe it's got legs. I'd do a mini-series before a full series.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
If they could make it as good as Agent Carter and have some sort of condensed story that they want to tell and that has a beginning, middle, and end, I'd be down for it.
I just want to see this team forced to write something where they know when the ending is. Because they keep writing, because the problem is that they're successful without really having a good enough sense of what makes great stories, I think. Just from what we've seen so far. I mean, they've done some really great stuff, but the problem is they never write toward an ending. And I feel like when you're never writing toward an ending, you have a tendency to meander and to sometimes lose sight of who your characters are. I want to see these guys forced into a format.
Yeah, that would be really cool. What city did they say they were going to? Pittsburgh? Was that the city that they said?
It's a real city. I would be really surprised if they did another show, if they did a show with them and they set it in Pittsburgh. It'd probably be more likely they go to Coast City.
Yeah, Coast City or Midway City.
That would be really cool.
And then
I would really like to see what's the name of the Amell that's playing Firestorm?
Robbie Amell.
Robbie Amell.
He's good enough to be the leading man in a TV show.
He is. I'm surprised that I'm agreeing with you on that, because when we first saw him, I kind of didn't think anything of him. He's got presence. He's fine.
Yeah, he's really good. I enjoy him. I love his banter back and forth with Stein. Like, he doesn't feel like a dumb teenager talking to a genius. They feel like they have a legitimate chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
You guys keep talking amongst yourselves. I'm going to see if there's any comments we want to answer, because we haven't talked to our audience at all yet.
One of the things I thought was cool was something, because I don't know anything about Firestorm, but Steve mentioned that some of the later Firestorm comics were they were sort of commentary about Cold War politics, and I liked that this episode mentioned some of that stuff. It didn't really do anything. It talks about like the Cold War and the War on Terror and how that has changed the way he looks at things when he was speaking to the professor. I thought that was a cool little nod, because I wouldn't have known that unless he brought it up last time.
Yeah.
The Firestorm comics, particularly when Ostrander and Conway were doing them in like the early years, were really about Cold War politics, about environmental policy, about reach of government, not necessarily like being too big or too small, but just what they ought to regulate opposed to what they already do. So there's a really fascinating premise there already with making Firestorm run from the military, because you've already got the comic base for that.
He's almost like the DC version of the Hulk. It's two people trapped in the same body, and it's the military chasing after him, and it's politics, just like the early Hulk comics.
2.5 Doctor says that Flash series writers Berlanti and Kreisberg wrote the Oscars.
Someone writes the Oscars? That's really manufactured. I didn't know that.
Well, somebody has to. Well, no, think about it, Dan. Somebody has to write all those cards that everybody reads.
I mean, I guess.
That's weird, because the jokes Harris has been cracking do not seem like Arrow Flash jokes at all. They seem a lot smarter than that.
Well, maybe
imagine if he had Cisco lines, that would be terrible. Oh, man.
He walks up and he's like, "You have failed this award show." What?
Although, to be fair, it's weird that they wrote them, because there's lots of jabs at comic book movies in the Oscars right now.
And I would imagine the ending of the show is going to make no sense, right?
It's gonna be like really convoluted, and they're gonna pretend like they were building to a thing the whole time, and you're gonna be like, I don't know what any of that was about, but it sure didn't go where I thought it was going to. That's pretty funny. The whole God no Grodd line. I wondered if that was a callback to Superman 2 or not. Because Zod says exactly the same thing. No, not God, Zod. And if you didn't remember that from Superman 2, I think the Grodd line is a lot more clever. But like, I saw it was Zod first. But I mean, it was cool. I was like, oh, that's neat if it's a nod. But anyway, I just want to mention that people are talking about in the comments. People are like, that was really clever. I'm like, I don't know that they didn't steal it, but I don't know.
That's probably exactly what they did. Because this show isn't afraid to, me and you, Cap, when we first started doing this discussion show at The Flash, they weren't afraid early on to take from those new Superman movies. There was stuff we noticed, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Let me answer a couple more things here real quick. We're out of time. Johnny Torch, I'm not crazy about Iris still, but at least they're trying to do something with her beyond the triangle. Fair enough. It's still kind of typical what they're doing with her, but at least they're putting her someplace. I do still feel like it's kind of the Lana Lang thing of like, we don't know where to put her.
I don't know what her purpose is. Like, what is she even trying to do at this newspaper? Well, that is different from where she was before. Like, they hired her to do Flash blogs, basically, in a newspaper. Like, the only difference is she's being paid better.
It's a really good point you're making, Dan.
And she is even more of a horrible person in the love triangle aspect now because she tried to sabotage Barry's relationship with Linda Park. So... yeah, I personally, I am as low on Iris as I've ever been, and I had major misgivings with her previously as well.
Yeah, isn't it also curious how Thawne has kind of disappeared the last couple episodes?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
The Bilby guy, I see changing time as potentially the same as killing everybody who exists and replacing them with different clones, when it isn't multiple timeline style anyway. Yeah, if you knew that you were just creating another timeline and everybody else got to move on, that would be an interesting ethical choice. You're like, well, I didn't technically change anybody. I mean, it did, but it didn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna make a joke. I'll make it after you make your smart point.
No, I was gonna say, I don't trust the writers to do this, but there are legitimate questions in philosophy about identity. So if you go back and change time, I mean, this is a legitimate argument. If you go back and change time, are still in the same world as everyone you know, still the same person?
Yeah.
Not just physically and biologically, but like, have you persisted in any way? And is it ethical or not to even make choices of that nature? So, I mean, that'd be really fascinating to tackle if they did that with this show, but I don't think they will.
Well, given what Barry's ethics were at the beginning of the show, and Dan and I were praising it really hard for being such contrast to Arrow, it would be just like really, really wrong of them to throw him under the bus, such where he would go back in time and change everybody's futures just to save his own mother. That's so ultra selfish. You would have to get him to a place where I thought that he was like really super desperate, and they're playing it at least at the end there. I guess we'll see where it goes, but they're not playing it like he is like he's going too far. They're playing it like he has a chance to get something we want him to have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know why they feel the need to do the time travel stuff the way they're doing, because I know Jeff Johns is part of the show, but even in like his newest Flash run, when they made Barry go back in time, it felt really out of character for that version of Barry Allen to make that choice, and they're making the exact same mistake here.
Red Letter Antilles says that he wishes Stein had the floating head. I thought the same thing. I
agree.
I thought that too. That would have been cool. But I still love the way they did it. It reminded me of that. Like it made me think of the way I've seen Firestorm in the comics, and I didn't feel really slighted by it. I wonder what people that are actually fans of Firestorm. I wonder if there are fans of Firestorm. But if there are fans of Firestorm, I'd like to know what they thought of this. If they give him his own show, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we'll go ahead and close up. I want to see the Firestorm show so that we can see Deathstorm. Because I just really want to see Deathstorm. And that would be so cool. We got Reverse Flash, why can't we have Deathstorm?
Best case scenario with all of this time travel stuff is Barry goes back in time and all of the terrible ramifications that you guys are talking about actually happen, and then Wally West becomes the Flash and he's the new star of the show. That would be the best case scenario.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
I know you're joking, but I do want to say that could be cool if we went back and we had kind of like a Back to the Future 2 like a really crappy post-apocalyptic present that he creates. It's just that the way they're playing it right now, it doesn't feel like they think that the people writing this think there's anything wrong with what he's doing.
Well, and there is precedence for that even in the show. We see that newspaper that was at the end of the first episode, that stinger with Wells, where it kind of talks about the Crisis on Infinite Earths scenario where Barry has to sacrifice his life to go back in time and like stop the world from ending. So maybe they're actually going to go there. Who knows?
Okay, sorry, I gotta say this real quick before we go. Arrow. Okay, so somebody calling themselves Arrow Sucks. So keep that with it. That's hilarious. Arrow Sucks says you guys are missing the point. Barry has already gone back in time, so there are no ethical questions to be had. It is his destiny to go back in time. Okay, here's where I'm gonna.
See,
here's my rebuttal, though. This is my rebuttal from his perspective. There are ethical questions to be had because the only reason he would go back in time is if he thought he could change what happened already.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he says. He says that since he's gone back once, he now has an option and can do it differently. That's completely different than being destined to go back in time.
Even if
he's making a conscious choice.
Even if he's wrong about that, and it is already set, it's destiny in the sense that. And I like, by the way, that we've been talking about Destiny this whole show, and I haven't really cared for it. I'm getting more on board with the Destiny talk now because there's like a real physical thing to deal with now. The question of the age-old time travel thing of if it's already happened or if you can make it happen, and if it's already happened, then do you really have a choice? That's great. I'm glad we're doing that. But if he's wrong about it and it's already set, he doesn't know he's wrong about it. So the person missing the point, if there are no ethical questions, is not me, it's Barry.
Yeah, I mean, he's acting like he has a say in the matter. So that just immediately negates the fact that there are no ethical questions to be had because he's making a conscious choice. Every time you make a choice, there is an ethical label that goes with it. So it's really selfish of Barry whether or not he's destined to do it or not because he's not giving any more thought to it than he's already done it.
Real quick, sorry, one more. There are actually a lot of questions and comments this time. Crisco 1990. I want there to be a crossover where Barry accidentally travels about 5 years into the future and encounters Connor Hawk, Roy with his right arm cut off, and Oliver having a goatee. Also, Star Labs and Verdant, now the Quiver, a huge arrow cave, both have Zeta tubes similar to Young Justice and are voiced by Gideon.
That was so cool.
Well, that just sounds like somebody who wants to see like stuff in other shows that he likes realized in this.
It's clearly Young Justice brought to life, but that would be really cool to have Connor Hawk on television.
Well, why don't we go ahead and Johnny Torch? Time travel is the mother of all headaches. You ain't wrong, man.
Yeah.
Wait, about the Connor Hawk thing.
Yeah,
I just have a. Don't we know that Oliver knocked up some chick and Connor Hawk is like a baby, so if he traveled 5 years in the future, Connor Hawk would be 5 years old?
Connor Hawk would be 6 years old present day, and then another year for this season, so 7, and then 5 years into the future, he would be like 12.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was born yet.
No,
he's born.
He was born in a. Dan, what that was a flashback from during the time from right before Oliver went to the island.
Oh, okay. Okay.
See, and Oliver went to the island like 8 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess you'd have to move further in the future than just 5 years, but he would still be at least teenage.
Yeah.
So he could be like Speedy. He could be like mini Green Arrow.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's why. If you'll remember in the crossover, Dan, she was his mother was on the phone with him.
Oh, okay.
Or on the phone with somebody talking about him, but he's like, yeah. That's cool. I forgot about it until just now. Anyway, well, let's go ahead and
wait till that becomes a major plot point in Arrow.
It will. Well, everybody, thanks. I'm surprised it hasn't been yet, to be perfectly honest with you. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. We sure appreciate it. Live internet audience, thanks for all of your insightful questions and comments, and we'll see you again next week on Flash Discussions. I'm Captain Logan, and this was Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, guys.
And Steve Baxi.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
And we'll see you again next time.
See ya.